continuing on from last week, we're just going to go through some key fixes and also some really common problems and mistakes that I see people make when they do a hang power clean. So quick recap on what we went through last week. Hang power clean, major movement that I recommend if people come to me and they want to work on their power clean, because it's an easier movement to learn and it's going to get the right stimulus out of the movement, which is that violent hip extension. So, first things first, if we have a look at where we're catching the bar, so we're having a look at that front rack position. Now, me personally, I don't have the best front rack position there, but the idea is where I'm catching the bar and where I'm receiving the bar is on my delts. If I was to take my hands away, that bar is still sitting in that same position as where it was where I caught it. Now, ideally, if I can get a full grip on the bar and get my elbows 90 degrees, then I'm exactly where I want to be. For me, I do loosen my grip off a little bit just to get a little bit more height on my elbows. Not ideal, it's probably something that I need to work on, and if you're in this same position, it's probably something that you need to work on. Now, most common thing I see is people don't have the mobility to get even into this position that I'm in right now. So what they do when they catch is they catch it in their hands with their elbows behind the bar. That puts far too much pressure on your wrists and your shoulders. Don't do that. If you're in this position, just don't hang power clean. Work on your mobility first and then we can work on the rest of it later, okay? But that's our catch position. So that's probably number one fix that I want people to work through. Once you're in that position there, as I said last week, we're going to work into our step one, so our power position, and this is just with that nice upright torso, hips down to my heels. What I'm working on from here, the cue that some coaches use is to jump. But what I like to say is you want to drive through your heels as hard as you can and get those shoulders moving nice and vertical. The idea is to use your hips, use those big drivers in your legs to get that bar moving up. What I want to make sure I do is I don't want to roll onto my toes too early and throw that bar in front of myself. I want to get that bar moving straight up, okay? So when I start warming up for the movement, I'm going to start from here and I'm just going to work on extending straight up. Big drive through my heels, getting that full extension. Once I finish that, I want to keep that bar nice and close. I'm going to drive up, the elbows back, and I'm going to start to move that bar up closer to that catch position. So starting from that one, I'm going to extend up, elbows back. Then once I'm in this position here, I'm moving those feet, retreating those hips back, moving into a good athletic position and catching that bar exactly where we just went through. So another common mistake that I see a lot of is people really throwing their hips into the bar and then having to kind of reverse curl it back, kind of like they're doing CrossFit Open WOD 18.1 and catching the bar there in that front rack position, or if they're doing that, generally they're catching it in their hands. So key point one, making sure we've got that good front rack position. Key point two, making sure we're extending up, keeping that bar nice and close, and then when we receive the bar into that front rack position. Very last thing, and probably the number three most common mistake, as we start to move the bar to just above the knee, we want to hinge back. So we're going to drive those hips back, bring those shoulders over, stop that bar about mid-thigh or just above the knee, and then as I come back through, I want to make sure I return to that step one before I extend. Quite a lot of times, what I will see is I will see one of two things generally happen. I'll see somebody stand straight up, roll onto their toes, throw their hips forward and then have to go chasing the bar, or I won't actually see that person extend all the way up. They'll get to about here, they'll start pulling with their arms, and then as they transition through, they're catching the bar in their hands again. They're not catching it in that rack position that they really want to try and get to finish the movement. They're really three probably of the most common mistakes that I see people make when it comes to doing this movement. So just to recap over those again. Number one, not catching the bar in that proper front rack position. Catching it in your hands, elbows behind. Far too much pressure on your wrists, your elbows, your your shoulders. Number 2, not driving enough and not staying and getting that bar nice and vertical as they try and extend. And number 3, not transitioning back through properly before they extend. Rolling onto your toes, or not extending at all and just making it an arm movement, doing some wicked reverse curls there with the barbell. So there's some 3 key points. As I've said in previous weeks and with previous movements like this, the best thing you can do is invest in a coach to fix whatever it is you need working on. Just simply doing it is not necessarily going to get you the right stimulus. You may think you're doing it right, but in all honesty, you may actually be practicing bad repetition, okay? You can teach an old dog new tricks, but it's very, very, very hard to reteach that dog when they've done that core movement 1,000 times. So go get yourself a coach if you really want to learn these movements properly. Next week, we'll take you through some substitutes that you can use if you can't quite get these.